It was one of those summers that hit you like a wall, scorching sun turning the dirt into dust clouds that stuck to your skin. Ridgefield Plantation was buzzing like a hornet's nest, workers moving, horses neighing, the occasional yell cutting through the air. And in the middle of it all was Elias, hunched over the edge of the porch, eyes scanning everything like a hawk. The man wasn't much to look at, thin, wiry, graying hair, hands rough from years. But his mind? Sharp as a blade. And today he was pissed. Pissed because he had seen too much. Too many families ripped apart, names erased, stories lost. He'd watched people he knew being sold off like cattle, and something in him had snapped years ago. He couldn't change the world, but he could make sure the world remembered. That's where Benjamin came in. Benjamin was 11, scrappy, full of fire and questions that most grown folks tried to ignore. When Elias first met him, he saw that spark, the kind that could burn through fear, through rules, through every you can't in the world. "Kid," Elias said, voice low but steady, "you're gonna write. Every name, every story, every soul that gets crushed here. You're the one who keeps them alive on paper." Benjamin blinked, wide-eyed, excitement mixing with nerves. "Right? Me?" he asked, half grinning. "Yeah, you," Elias replied, tapping the boy on the shoulder. "You've got hands fast enough, a mind sharp enough, and a heart. Well, that's the most important part." Benjamin grabbed the notebook Elias handed him. It was old, leather-bound, corners frayed, pages yellowed. But to him, it was gold. Every page a battlefield, every line a lifeline. He started scribbling names, dates, places, every little detail. Elias whispered. Who was sold, who stayed, who fought back, who broke down crying in the fields. Benjamin didn't just write. He listened, he watched, he felt it all. He swore to himself that nothing would be forgotten on his watch. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months. Benjamin's handwriting got better, steadier. The diary grew thicker, heavier. Not just pages, but history. He documented Denina, the first woman sold from Ridgefield. Her face, her fear, but also her courage. She managed to slip him a tiny note one afternoon, words scrawled and trembling. "Remember us. Tell someone." That note ignited something in Benjamin. It wasn't just writing, it was a movement, a quiet rebellion hidden in ink. He learned fast. Dates, names, family connections, escape rumors, small acts of defiance. Benjamin began noticing patterns. Who was sympathetic, who could be trusted, who would turn a blind eye. The diary wasn't just a book anymore. It was a map of hope, a web of information that, if used wisely, could change lives. Small victories, whispered warnings, secret safe spots, it all went into the pages. Every entry a pulse, a heartbeat, a silent, "We are still here." But it wasn't easy. Benjamin carried a weight heavier than his 11-year-old shoulders could handle. He saw pain no child should see, tears that burned through the heart, families torn apart. And yet, each time he sat down to write, he felt power. Power to remember, to honor, to resist. His mind replayed every scene, but his hand never wavered. Names became lifelines, details became weapons. He knew if he stopped, the voices would be gone forever. And Benjamin wasn't about to let that happen. Years passed. The diary grew thicker. By 1836, it was a record spanning 10 years. Hundreds of lives, countless struggles, moments of courage that no history book would ever mention. Benjamin had grown too, from scrappy kid to sharp, vigilant teen that he'd learned the language of survival, the rhythm of secrecy. People started noticing. Whispers of a young scribe reached neighbors, freed folks, even a few sympathetic plantation workers. Benjamin became part of an underground network, passing messages, warning families, offering hope, all written in code or disguised in innocent notes. And then, one sweltering afternoon, Benjamin stumbled upon something that made his heart stop. A map, hidden behind loose boards in the attic. Crude, hand-drawn, marking routes, safe houses, and escape paths. The details were rough, but the intent was clear. Someone was planning, someone had a plan to get out, to run. Benjamin's mind raced. He knew this diary, his work, could now become a guide, a beacon. But he also knew the stakes. If the wrong eyes caught this, it could mean death for everyone involved. Every night, after the plantation slept, Benjamin worked by candlelight, scribbling updates, tracking movements, noting risks, and rewriting maps. He started small, names, routes, warnings. But soon, his entries became stories, mini chronicles of bravery and cunning. He wrote about Iris, a girl no older than him, daring and sharp, who had snuck out to deliver messages. About Samuel, who had resisted a sale, refusing to bow to fear. About Old Man Thomas, who remembered every name, every wrong done, and every quiet victory. Through it all, Benjamin never stopped feeling the weight of responsibility. He was more than a writer. He was a guardian of memory, a chronicler of truth. Each entry reminded him why he started. Every line written was a promise. You will not be forgotten. By the end of this first stretch, Benjamin had a notebook that wasn't just paper and ink. It was a testament, a story of survival, a beacon in the dark. He was ready, unknowingly, for what was coming next: bigger risks, bolder moves, and encounters that would push him and everyone around him to the edge. But for now, in the quiet of the night, with sweat on his brow and determination in his heart, Benjamin kept writing. One name, one story, one heartbeat at a time. The sun hadn't even kissed the morning sky when Ridgefield was already stirring. Benjamin's eyes opened to the familiar hum of the plantation, the clatter of buckets, the soft neighs of horses, the distant murmur of voices that could turn sharp in an instant. He rubbed his eyes, stuffed the diary under his arm, and crept outside, careful not to wake anyone. Today felt different. Something was in the air, heavy and buzzing like static electricity before a storm. He stopped by the edge of the woods, where the air smelled of damp earth and pine, and crouched low, scanning for movement. That's when he noticed the footprints. Small, almost hidden in the loose dirt, but they didn't belong to any of the usual laborers. They were fresh, deliberate, and cautious. Benjamin's heart thumped, but instead of fear, a thrill ran through him. Someone was sneaking around. Someone needed his diary. Shit, he muttered under his breath, grabbing a stick as a makeshift weapon. He moved silent as a shadow, following the trail like a fox on the hunt. And then, a whisper, a voice so soft it could have been the wind. You Benjamin? Benjamin froze, the hair on the back of his neck prickling. A girl stepped from behind a tree, her eyes wide and wary. She looked no older than him, but there was a fierceness in her stare that made him stop in his tracks. Yeah, who's asking? He said cautiously. Name's Iris, she whispered. I heard you're the one keeping the stories alive. We need your help. Benjamin's pulse spiked. He'd heard rumors, other kids, other brave souls, trying to slip messages, pass warnings, but no one had come to him directly. He nodded slowly. I write what I see. What do you need? Iris glanced over her shoulder before speaking. There's a group of us planning, running away. Some of the older ones figured out a route. But it's risky, real risky. If anyone in charge catches wind, it's over. We need maps, names, safe spots, your diary. It could save us. Benjamin's mind raced. He'd been chronicling for years, hiding notes, secret symbols, coded routes. But now, it was more than writing. It was strategy, life or death. He handed her a small, folded page. Take this. But you gotta be careful. Don't let anyone see. And, promise me, you'll come back here to update me. Every move counts. Iris nodded, gripping the paper tightly. I promise. And then she was gone, melting into the shadows, leaving Benjamin standing there, heart hammering, adrenaline surging. The day blurred into work. Benjamin moved through fields, chores, and conversations, all the while thinking about Iris, about the plan, about the stakes. The diary lay hidden in the loft, pages open, ready for the next update. He scribbled notes during lunch breaks, small sketches, warnings, reminders. Every detail mattered. Which guard liked to nap near the west barn, which path led to thick brush that could hide a dozen kids, where the river swirled deep enough to cover tracks. Night fell like a velvet curtain, and Benjamin climbed to his usual spot, diary in hand. He was halfway through an entry about Samuel and Dinah, detailing how Samuel had helped Dinah's younger brother hide in the barn, when he heard a faint rustle outside the window. He froze. Footsteps. Soft, deliberate. Someone was up here, in the loft. Before he could react, the window creaked open. Iris slipped inside, eyes wide, panting. Benjamin, you gotta see this. She pulled a small bundle from her satchel. Another map, this one marked in detail, river bends, safe houses, and areas heavily guarded. We scouted it today. Looks like we can make it past the east fence if we leave before sunrise tomorrow. Benjamin leaned over, tracing the lines with his finger. This is good. Real good. But we gotta warn the others. And we gotta make sure the guards don't change their schedule. Timing's everything. Iris nodded. I know. That's why I came to you first. You keep track of everything. If we slip up, we're dead. Benjamin's hand shook slightly as he wrote it all down. Sweat beaded his brow, not from the heat, but from the weight of responsibility. Every line, every name, every mark could mean life or death. And yet, in the back of his mind, a thrill bubbled up. For the first time, his diary wasn't just a record, it was a weapon. Days blended into nights. The escape plan unfolded like a living organism, growing, adapting, shifting. Benjamin became the unseen strategist, scribbling updates, warning Iris of patrol changes, noting hidden paths and blind spots. Every night, the loft became command central. Candlelight flickered against the pages as Benjamin's hand moved tirelessly, chronicling, planning, imagining the moment they'd break free. And then the whispers started, rumors of suspicion, guards asking questions they shouldn't, a neighbor noticing unusual movement. Benjamin felt the walls closing in, but he didn't panic. He had learned the art of patience, the rhythm of subtlety. One misstep could ruin everything, but he had the knowledge, the strategy, and the courage to stay ahead. By the end of this stretch, the plan was set. The escape route mapped, contingencies noted, signals agreed upon. Benjamin closed the diary, feeling the weight of it in his hands. Heavier than any stone he'd lifted, heavier than any burden he'd carried. But heavier also with hope. Because the story wasn't just survival anymore. It was rebellion, courage, and life pushing back against a world that tried to erase it. And somewhere deep inside, Benjamin knew this was just the beginning. Bigger risks, bolder moves, and unforeseen dangers were waiting. But for tonight, he allowed himself a rare, fleeting smile. They had a chance. And for the first time, that was enough. The morning air was thick with mist as Benjamin climbed out of the loft, diary tucked under his arm. He could feel it, the kind of pressure that makes your chest tighten, your stomach churn, and your brain race at 1,000,000 miles per hour. Today wasn't just another day. It was the day that would either bring them closer to freedom or crush everything in a heartbeat. He moved quietly through the fields, avoiding the guards' usual paths. Even the horses seemed to sense the tension, snorting and stamping as if they knew what was coming. Benjamin's eyes flicked to the east fence, the critical section Iris had marked. That route was narrow, exposed, and risky, but if they wanted to escape, it was their only shot. Suddenly, a shadow darted from the barn. Benjamin froze. It was Thomas, a kid from the older group who had a knack for disappearing when trouble came. Hey, Thomas whispered, sliding next to him. We got word. Someone snitched. Guards are watching closer now. We can't make a move until tonight, and even then, it's dicey. Benjamin clenched his jaw. Figures. No rest for the smart ones. Did they see anything about the diary? Thomas shook his head. Nah, but it's only a matter of time. You gotta be extra careful. No mistakes. Hours crawled by. Benjamin scribbled in the diary, noting the guards' shifted schedules, the new patrols, and small details that could make or break their escape. Sweat dripped down his back despite the cool morning breeze. Every sound felt louder, sharper, branches cracking, distant shouts, a dog barking. He felt like a hunter and the hunted at the same time. By evening, Iris arrived. Her eyes were wide, but her voice was calm, dangerously calm. Benjamin, we spotted something. Someone's been watching the west barn. Not just a guard, someone else. Benjamin's stomach dropped. A spy. Iris shook her head. Could be. Could be anyone. We need to move, tonight, no questions asked. Night fell, heavy and suffocating. Benjamin led the group to the pre-designated meeting spot near the woods. The leaves rustled like whispers in the dark, masking their footsteps, but Benjamin could feel every crack of a twig underfoot like a warning bell. The group huddled together, tension thick enough to taste. All right, Benjamin whispered. We follow the map, stay in pairs, no noise, and keep your eyes sharp. One wrong move, and we're done. Got it. A chorus of murmurs followed, nods, and shaky grips. Everyone understood. The stakes had never been higher. Benjamin checked his watch. Midnight was their window. As they approached the east fence, a figure appeared, unexpected. A guard. Panic shot through the group. Benjamin froze, thinking fast. The guard wasn't alert. He was leaning against a post, talking to someone on a device Benjamin had never seen. He muttered a curse, focused entirely on the device. Benjamin motioned the group to wait, holding his breath. Iris gripped his arm. We can't wait. We're spotted already. Benjamin made a split-second decision. Move. Stick to the shadows. Follow me. They crept low, bodies pressed against the underbrush, every step calculated. The guard's back was turned, but Benjamin's heart pounded like a drum in his ears. A twig snapped underfoot. He bit his lip to stifle a curse. The guard tensed, but didn't see them. They moved faster, bodies almost brushing the fence, freedom inching closer. And then, a loud shout. Hey, stop! Benjamin cursed under his breath. One of the younger kids had panicked, stumbled, and caught the guard's attention. Chaos erupted. Iris grabbed Benjamin's arm. Go. Now. They sprinted, dodging lantern light, ducking under low branches, leaping over roots. Benjamin could hear guards shouting, dogs barking, footsteps pounding behind them. The diary felt like lead in his backpack, but he refused to drop it. Every word inside it was a lifeline. Minutes stretched into eternity. Finally, they hit the river, a wide, rushing ribbon of water that shimmered under the moonlight. Benjamin looked around, calculating. We cross here. Quick, but careful. Don't fight the current. Let it carry you a bit. One by one, they slipped into the water, icy and brutal, clinging to each other, shouting warnings, holding breath, moving as fast as they could. Benjamin's legs burned, arms aching, lungs screaming. But when they reached the far bank, soaked and shivering, he allowed himself a fleeting grin. They were alive. But as they huddled together in the shadows, Benjamin's smile faded. This was only the first step. They'd escaped the first trap, but the world outside the plantation was bigger, darker, and more dangerous. And he knew the story was far from over. Benjamin pulled out the diary, dripping wet, and scribbled furiously. Step 1 complete. But danger's closing in. We're not safe yet. Keep moving. Keep watching. Keep surviving. Somewhere deep in the woods, a pair of eyes watched them, silent, calculating. Benjamin didn't see them. He couldn't. But the threat had grown. And with that realization, a chill ran down his spine. Because survival wasn't just about running anymore. It was about outsmarting every shadow, every whisper, every enemy waiting in the dark. The river had been merciless, but it was their lifeline. Benjamin and his group huddled behind a cluster of rocks, shivering, water dripping off every inch of them. Their teeth chattered, but there was no time to dry off or rest. The night was far from over. All right, Benjamin said, wrapping the diary in a wet cloth to keep it safe. We move east. The map says there's an old cabin about 3 miles from here. Shelter, maybe supplies something. But stay sharp. If that guard saw us, word spreads fast. Iris glanced around nervously, eyes darting between shadows. I don't like this. Too quiet. Too easy. Something's off. Benjamin smirked, even though his chest was still pounding. Quiet's a good thing sometimes. Just don't jinx it. The forest was alive with sounds. Owls hooting, branches cracking, the distant howl of wolves. Every rustle felt like it could be a threat. They moved low, sticks in hands, listening for the tiniest movement. Benjamin led, Iris and Thomas beside him, the younger kids trailing cautiously. About an hour in, they reached a clearing. Benjamin's heart skipped. A cabin loomed there, abandoned-looking, boards falling off, but smoke curled lazily from the chimney. That wasn't supposed to happen. Wait, Benjamin hissed. Someone's here. No answer. Just the smoke, curling like a warning. They crept closer. The door creaked open, and inside, a fire burned. Someone was sitting by it, hunched over, face hidden in the shadows. Benjamin stepped forward. Hey, we're not looking for trouble. Just shelter. The figure turned slowly. A man, rugged, eyes sharp as knives. He smirked, tilting his head. Shelter? Funny. Not many wander into my woods at night. Iris stepped up, protective. We just need a place to stay. We're not here to steal or fight. The man laughed low, almost a growl. Everyone says that. Thing is, I know what you're running from. And I can help. But help comes at a price. Benjamin felt a chill. Price? What kind of price? The man leaned closer. Information. And loyalty. You give me one, I keep you alive. You give me nothing, and well, the forest has its ways. The group exchanged uneasy glances. They didn't have a choice. Benjamin swallowed his pride and nodded. Deal. We talk, but only what's necessary. That's it. Hours passed. Around the fire, the man, who called himself Rafe, listened to Benjamin recount their escape, the diary, the patrols, the plantation's secrets. Every word was carefully measured. He asked questions, sometimes probing too deeply. Benjamin caught the way his eyes flicked to Iris when she wasn't looking. Something felt off. By midnight, the group was allowed to sleep, curled near the fire. Benjamin stayed awake, diary open, writing and planning. The forest was alive outside, every noise a potential threat, but the real danger, he realized, might be inside the cabin. Then came the whisper. Benjamin froze. From the corner of the room, a shadow moved. Not Rafe, someone else. He blinked. Thomas. What? Benjamin whispered. Thomas shook his head. I didn't mean to. I overheard something. Rafe's not just a stranger. He's working with the guards. He knew we were coming. He's planning to hand us back for a reward. Benjamin's stomach dropped. We trusted him. Damn it. Iris stirred, half awake. Benjamin grabbed her hand, shaking her slightly. Iris, wake up. Rafe, he's a snake. We gotta move. Now. They whispered a plan, moving slowly, carefully, not wanting to alert Rafe. The firelight flickered on the walls, casting long, sinister shadows. Every creak of the cabin felt like a countdown. Benjamin led them out the back, into the dense forest. Every step was silent, but their hearts hammered like war drums. The diary was clutched tightly. Benjamin couldn't lose it now, not after everything. Suddenly, Rafe's voice boomed from the cabin. Hey, don't think I won't shoot. Don't move. Adrenaline surged. Benjamin didn't answer. He motioned the group faster. The underbrush scratched their skin, tangled their clothes, but they ran. Branches slapped faces, roots tripped them, but nothing mattered. They had to survive. Halfway through the forest, Benjamin stopped, gasping. Split up. We'll meet at the ridge in 30 minutes. Don't stop. Don't argue. Move. The group scattered like shadows in the night. Benjamin ran, the cold sweat stinging his eyes. He could hear Rafe's curse-filled shouts behind him, dogs barking, the forest alive with chaos. But there was one thought in his mind. Never look back. Not once. By the time Benjamin reached the ridge, dawn was breaking. The forest seemed calmer now, but the adrenaline didn't fade. They were alive, but they had lost time, and trust was thinner than ever. He opened the diary and scribbled. Rafe's a traitor. We can't trust anyone. Keep moving. Keep hiding. The outside world is bigger, darker, and every shadow is a threat. Step 2 complete, barely. Benjamin looked at the horizon. Sunlight filtered through the trees, promising warmth, but also danger. They had escaped one trap, only to walk straight into another. Because in a world built on secrets, freedom wasn't given, it was taken, and they were just beginning to fight for it. The morning sun was weak, barely cutting through the fog that clung to the ridge. Benjamin's legs ached from running, his lungs burned, but he couldn't stop now. The diary was tucked safely under his jacket, pressed against his chest like a lifeline. Every step forward felt like stepping into a trap, but staying put wasn't an option. Iris and Thomas arrived, their faces pale, eyes wide, adrenaline still pumping. You made it, Iris whispered, relief mixed with exhaustion. Benjamin nodded, catching his breath. Barely. Rafe's a snake. We can't trust anyone, except ourselves. We gotta keep moving east. There's a safe house marked on the diary. If we reach it, maybe we can plan the next move. Thomas shivered. Safe house. You mean like someone's secret hideout? Benjamin smirked weakly. Exactly. Somewhere no one will think to look. They started down the ridge carefully. The forest was thick here, trees twisted like old bones, roots crawling across the path. The morning fog made it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. Every crack of a branch, every rustle of leaves felt like a warning. Hours passed. Just when exhaustion threatened to slow them down, Benjamin spotted movement ahead. A figure crouched low, eyes scanning. Who's that? Iris hissed. Benjamin gestured to be quiet. The figure seemed human, but there was something different, a sense of calm, confidence, not like the nervous strangers they'd met before. Benjamin stepped forward, hands raised. Hey, We're not here to hurt anyone. Just looking for shelter. Safe house, you know. The figure froze, then stood tall, stepping into the light. She was lean, quick, her hair tied back, eyes sharp as a hawk's. Safe house, huh? You're far from anywhere safe, kid. Who sent you? Benjamin hesitated, then shook his head. No one. Just surviving. Running from Rafe and the patrols. We need a place to rest, plan. The woman studied them, her gaze piercing. Name's Selena. I've been watching the patrols, the guards, and, yeah, I know Rafe. He's a rat. Always has been. If you're smart, you'll come with me. Iris blinked. You know him too? Selena smirked. Everyone in these woods knows Rafe. He's greedy, stupid, thinks he can control everything. But I've got my own ways. Follow me if you want to live. Benjamin exchanged a look with the others. It was a risk, but they had no other choice. They nodded. Selena led them through hidden trails, under low-hanging branches, over rocky streams. Hours passed, and Benjamin's respect for her grew. She moved like she owned the forest, silent, deadly, and completely in control. Finally, they arrived at a concealed cabin tucked into a ravine. Unlike Rafe's rundown shelter, this one looked lived in but secure. Smoke curled gently from a chimney, and the door opened before they could knock. Inside, a few people greeted them, armed, alert, but not hostile. Selena's told us you're running from Rafe. One of them said, a burly man with a scar across his cheek. We can hide you, but you gotta play by the rules. Benjamin nodded. Whatever it takes. We'll do what we need to survive. The safe house was a strange mix of calm and tension. People moved quietly, eyes always scanning. Weapons were polished, meals were prepared in silence, and every step had to be careful. As night fell, Benjamin sat with Selena near a small fire, whispering, Why help us? You don't even know us. Selena chuckled softly. Because I hate snakes like Rafe. And because I've been waiting for someone to shake things up. You might just be those people. Benjamin glanced at the diary. Every page felt heavier now, filled with secrets, danger, and the hope that they could actually make a difference. Suddenly, a noise from outside. Footsteps. Heavy, slow. Someone was coming. Benjamin tensed. Selena's hand went to her weapon. Quiet. Let's see who's dumb enough to walk into our trap. Through the shadows, a figure emerged, Rafe. His smirk was gone, replaced with a sneer. Thought you could hide from me? Thought you could play smart? Benjamin gritted his teeth. You think this ends here? Rafe laughed, low and dangerous. Oh, it's just getting started. The safe house erupted into chaos. People shouted, weapons clashed, firelight danced across the walls. Benjamin grabbed the diary, pulling Iris and Thomas behind him. Selena led the defense, moving with precision, taking Rafe's men down one by one. By the time the sun peaked over the horizon, Rafe had retreated, leaving only footprints and threats. Benjamin looked around at the faces of their new allies, scarred, tired, but alive. Selena rested her hand on his shoulder. This isn't over, but you survived the first real test. And if you stick with me, maybe, just maybe, you'll make it through the next. Benjamin nodded. The diary felt heavier, but so did his resolve. They weren't just running anymore. They were planning, fighting, surviving. And the forest had a long way to go before it was done with them. The years had stacked up like bricks on Iris's shoulders. Life after Ridgefield wasn't easy. Freedom wasn't some magic switch. Nah, it was messy, slow, and full of scars. She walked the dusty roads of Nichito, carrying only what she could sling over her shoulder, her hands rough from work and worry. Every step reminded her of the people whose names were etched into her heart, names she had written down over decades. Those names weren't just letters on paper, they were proof. Proof they existed, proof they weren't going to be forgotten. By the late 1860s, the war had torn everything apart. Plantations burned, families scattered, the old order crumbled like brittle toast. And yet, Iris kept moving. She found herself a little room in town, shared with other freed folks trying to patch together some kind of normal. Some days, it felt hopeless, but she had a fire inside that nothing could snuff out. She thought of Elias, who had started the diary all those years back. She thought of Benjamin, who carried it through hell and heartbreak. And she knew her job wasn't done. In 1871, fate threw a curveball. A young historian, Thomas Vickers, came into her life. He was all eager eyes and questions, a pencil always in hand, scribbling like the world depended on it. When he mentioned the Ridgefield diary, Iris nearly dropped the basket she was carrying. "That's my work," she said, shaking. "Some of it. I wrote it." Thomas blinked like he'd seen a ghost, and that was just the start. She took him, step by step, through the decades. She told him about Elias, about Benjamin, about all the folks whose lives had been torn apart by the auctions and sales. She told him about hiding the diary with Daniel Hart, the old carpenter who had taken it on faith that it must survive. She told him about the network, the free black folks, the sympathetic whites, the steamboat porters, the midwives, the carpenters, all risking their necks just to pass along news so someone, someday, would remember. Thomas scribbled like crazy, almost falling over in excitement. He realized he wasn't just reading a diary. He was reading resistance, pure and unfiltered. Iris held that leather-bound book close, feeling every page under her fingers. She whispered the names aloud. Denina, Bess, Clara, Peter, Rose, hundreds of them, scattered across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Texas. Each one a life, a story, a heart ripped out and placed on paper so it wouldn't vanish. She couldn't save everyone, but she could remember them all. That was her power, her rebellion. With Vickers's help, the diary made it into the Historical Society, safe at last. For the first time in decades, Iris felt the weight on her shoulders ease just a little. She wrote one final entry in 1873, filling the last blank pages with the names of those who had survived the war, those who were free, those who had passed on. "We are still here," she wrote. "We are still remembered." And she closed the book, letting the words breathe, letting the memory settle. Iris lived the rest of her years quietly, always carrying that history in her mind, always checking on the people she knew had survived, and always making sure their stories were spoken aloud. When she passed in 1891, she left no grave that would last. A simple wooden cross rotted away in the Louisiana soil. But her handwriting, her voice, her defiance, that survived. It survived in the pages of the Ridgefield diary, a testament that those who tried to erase her people could never fully succeed. The diary became a whisper through the decades. Some historians stumbled upon it, some scholars wrote about it, but for Iris, the real victory wasn't fame. It was memory. It was justice in its purest form. Every name she recorded, every story she preserved, was a middle finger to the system that tried to make her people invisible. And that, more than anything, was freedom. Because in the end, slavery couldn't take their names. It couldn't erase their love, their grief, their humanity. And thanks to Elias, Benjamin, and Iris, the world would know their stories. They had fought with pen and paper, with memory and courage, and they had won in the only way that mattered, by being remembered.